Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. First of all, I love IYF, and I know I'm in a room filled with people who are all here for the same purpose, really hoping to make an impact on youth and on the world. And to see so many people gathered, I had people lobbying me to get access to this event, which they were lobbying the wrong person. Bill, they should have lobbied you. But I was getting calls from people saying, I can't get into the event. I came here this morning. My dear friend Joe was standing outside because there wasn't a chair for him. And some people might be upset by that. I was actually very happy because it shows how much enthusiasm and participation we have in this event. So I'm really proud of the event and IYF, and I want to thank all of you for your participation and what you're doing for youth and for your work in partnering with us to try to help make the world better. I'm so excited to have the chance to introduce Chris Nassetta, and I don't want to make it a long introduction because we've already broken my first rule, which is never introduce the introducer. So, but Bill, thank you for that introduction. We're going to speak for just a few minutes, though, about Chris, because it was very intentional for IYF to reach out to Hilton to create a partnership. And when we think about where there are great employment opportunities for youth and where there is a career ladder that creates a progression of opportunities, certainly the hospitality industry, broadly speaking, including food service, is a massive, massive employer globally. And so Bill and I and the members of the board really wanted a flagship partner for IYF in the hospitality arena. What I didn't realize was that in meeting Hilton that we would really especially find a like-minded individual, a great leader in Chris, who really has taken very personally this commitment to youth. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Chris. His full biography is in the program, so I'm not going to give you all of the details. But what I will tell you is Chris is the president and CEO for Hilton Worldwide. He's been there since 2007. Before that, he was the president and CEO of Host Hotels and Resorts. And before that, had founded his own company related to operations and advisory work in the real estate industry. Chris has a very impressive array of interests and boards that he serves on, including the World Travel and Tourism Council, CoStar Group, the Real Estate Roundtable, Federal City Council, Arlington Free Clinic, the Kennedy Center, and most recently, and I'm sure the board you're most proud to be a part of, is the International Youth Foundation, and we're incredibly proud and excited to have you on our board. Chris has had obviously a very impactful and distinguished career in a short period of time, and in becoming the CEO of Hilton, he now heads up the global leader in hospitality with 3,800 hotels in 91 countries. So I still have to add, I would have to add 3 a day, new countries, Bill, for a long time to catch up to Chris in 91 countries, a workforce of over 300,000 people, and a supply chain that employs thousands more in businesses all over the world. I think everyone would recognize the Hilton name. It's the most recognized brand in the hospitality sector. More important than just his work at Hilton, though, you're going to hear from Chris how passionate he is about Hilton's commitment to the people and the communities where it operates. Hilton's signature sustainability and corporate responsibility program called Travel with Purpose is second to none, not only in the hospitality sector, but among all corporate responsibility programs. For Chris, though, unlike a lot of CEOs, Hilton's CR program is not only about good business practice, but also reflects his own deeply held conviction and personal passion for young people and what we all can do and must do to foster empowered, self-confident, educated, articulate, and civically engaged young people around the world. And lastly, as I mentioned, I'm especially appreciative that Chris agreed to join the IYF board because the partnership between us and Hilton is terrific, but the work that he'll do to help us build IYF, I think, is very important. Chris shares the commitment that the IYF board members all have for young people and for the mission of IYF to realize the full potential of every young person around the world. So it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Chris Nassetta. He'll be giving today's keynote address called Why Youth Matter. Chris?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to get a chance to say hello to a lot of you at lunch. And Doug, thank you for your maybe overly kind introduction. You know, I have a tough job, or at least I think I have a tough job, but it really is, in many ways, nothing compared to what all of you in this room have signed up for. which is literally to generate hundreds of millions of jobs for young people in the next decade. So it's good to be here to talk a little bit about what our industry is doing, because we are doing important work in this area, what our company is doing to meet the challenge and to join you in this challenge to accomplish, we think, great things in the next decade. I must admit, it's a little bit intimidating when Doug asked me to join you to come speak on a topic with all the world's experts sitting here as my audience. This is obviously not my day job, but it is a topic that I have a lot of passion for. This we talked about, I saw it at the end of the last panel. We share the world with 1.3 billion young people about to enter adulthood. And nothing, in my mind, could be more important than making sure that they have opportunities. In fact, this issue hits very close to home for me, literally. What Doug neglected to mention in his very kind introduction, Doug, thank you again, is my most important job, which is being a father to 6 daughters. That's right, 6 of them. So I know a lot more about youth than you may think from real-time practical experience. It's obviously something that I think about all the time, whether I like it or not, in my personal life and in my role at Hilton, as you'll hear in just a few minutes. My daughters, in a lot of ways, are fortunate enough to have many choices in front of them. Many young people, as you all know better than I, will not be so lucky. The writer Nicholas Sparks wrote, "Youth offers the promise of happiness, but life offers the realities of grief." Youth is supposed to be a time of dreams about a better future, but because of a number of challenges that are being highlighted today, that future doesn't always pan out the way that people think. The fact that there are more than 200 million young people living in poverty and an estimated 100 million unable to find employment shows that for far too many young people, even the faint promise of happiness can be overwhelmed by this reality. In my humble opinion, what's at stake is nothing short of our collective future. If we don't work together to find positive solutions, we will have created a lost generation and experience increasing instability and decline around the world. If you think about it, we're experiencing the effects of this unrest in many parts of the world today. And in my opinion, without some form of corrective action, what we're seeing today in many ways is really just the tip of the iceberg. We must help develop a line of sight to something better for this generation. And let's focus on the positive, not the negative, because if we do create a line of sight to a better future for this generation, I think we'll experience a social and economic dividend the likes that we've never seen before. So we're all here today representing business, government, out in the crowd, and civil society because we know this is a really, really serious problem. We face an expanding youth demographic boom, more than 1 billion young people seeking their places in the world, living mainly in the developing world, and all needing chances to succeed. For many of them, their prospects simply are not equal to their energy and ambition. Many find this challenging, daunting, some downright threatening. I tend not to. Those who know me, a few in the room, will tell you that I'm pretty much an eternal optimist. I see a couple of our team smiling about that. And I love a good challenge. That's why I took the job as CEO of Hilton 5 years ago, which was to take on the challenge of leading what honestly was a bit of a sleepy 93-year-old company and energize it and prepare it for the next 100 years. So far, so good. As Doug, I think, indicated, we're the fastest growing hospitality company in the world at the moment. I think there's some really valuable lessons from the business community that can help us create a better and stronger world for ourselves, our families, and future generations. So why is that? That's because I am firmly of the belief that in every community across this earth, there is a future leader who can transform his or her village, town, city, and ultimately country, and as a result, change our world for the better. They are the keys to resolving the entrenched problems that our generation, frankly, has failed to fix. They are definitely our hope, and in many, many ways, it is our responsibility to figure out how to provide a ladder to their success. Their achievements simply and clearly will benefit us all. This belief is deeply embedded in our company's culture, placed there directly by our founder, Conrad Hilton. Our corporate vision is to fill the earth with the light and warmth of hospitality. And Conrad Hilton didn't think our vision stopped at the walls of our properties. He issued a challenge to all of us: assume your full share of responsibility for the world in which you live. Powerful words, I think. Today, all of us at Hilton remain deeply committed to continuing and extending our founder's legacy through work with youth programs and, frankly, leaders like so many of you in this room. That's why we are really excited about the work we're doing with you to bridge the opportunity divide for young people in this country and all across the globe. I'd like to share with you a little bit about what I know best, which is what we in the travel and tourism industry can do, and frankly already are doing, to help provide a ladder for youth all over the globe. You may be surprised by the scope of our industry. The numbers are pretty impressive, and the impact is really significant and felt in nearly every country and every community in the world. Travel and tourism already contributes $6 trillion to the global economy. It's equal to about 9% of GDP. Travel and tourism is the single largest employer in the world, accounting for almost 10% of global employment, a staggering 260 million jobs. Many of these jobs are located in some of the most challenged areas on the planet and have an economic ripple effect that extends throughout these communities. As an example, travel and tourism provides 5 million jobs in the Middle East, 18 million jobs in Africa, and 146 million jobs in the Asia-Pacific region. And that's just part of the story, because that's just today. What's really exciting about this industry is we are positioned for very rapid growth. We expect the sector will create an additional 65 million jobs over the next decade. And importantly, most importantly for the people in this room, it is an industry that employs young people at a very high rate. In fact, young people make up the majority of the labor force in the travel sector. Many of the jobs that our sector creates for young people are the most important jobs that they'll hold. Often they represent their first experience in the formal workforce and start them on the path to achieving their dreams of financial security and fulfillment. Remember your first job. Let's face it, it may have not been the best job that you've ever had. It may have not been where you wanted to stay for your entire career, but I guarantee you learned some very valuable lessons and work skills and life skills that have put you on the path to your current success. The travel and tourism industry is a really good place to start a career. It provides skills training for young employees that are invaluable for future jobs inside and, frankly, outside the industry. Skills like IT, life skills, communications, management skills, frankly, the habits, the structure, the rigors, and discipline of work. I will never forget my first job. In fact, I was talking about it at lunch a little bit. It was in the engineering department of the Capitol Holiday Inn, just about 2 miles down the street, where I received a serious on-the-job training in operations, including, frankly, the finer points of plumbing, or a more glamorous name for plunging toilets. That's a very true story. I aspired to greater things, and I know there are many, many young people in our organization performing similar work that have the same dreams. As my life journey demonstrates, these are jobs with a path of upward mobility that can lead to more significant roles. Today's housekeeper, busboy, can become tomorrow's manager. Our company is literally littered with such stories. Men and women who have risen through the ranks and climbed the ladder of success within Hilton. Let me share a few of them with you. Dave Horton. I have some of his, team here with me today. Started off at Hilton in one of the most junior positions available at any of our properties. He started as a busboy in a hotel restaurant in Arizona. Today, he is the global head of our flagship brand, Hilton Hotels and Resorts, successfully leading a portfolio of more than 550 hotels and resorts across 6 continents. Others are earlier in their careers, but no less impressive. Zoltan Pyerly from Chicago started working in Hilton Worldwide right out of high school at the ripe old age of 18 as a guest service agent on the night shift. Night shift is hard work, helping check-in customers, answer phones, do whatever needed to be done. By the time he was 20, he had already been promoted twice, and he's continued his rapid rise through the ranks and is now a front office supervisor at the Waldorf Astoria in Orlando, Florida, at the ripe old age of 23. A great story. And some of our most compelling stories are from team members outside the U.S. Amanda Simones, a young woman from Brazil, began her career working in housekeeping at the Hilton in North Central region of Pará. She then took a job as a hotel operator upon graduation from school. Because of her amazing performance, she has been promoted to positions of increasing responsibility in properties in Brazil, the U.S., Portugal, and Spain, and is now Director of Operations overseeing projects in our entire European region. And you're going to be hearing from one of our team members later today, Pedro Amorim, born in Rio. He started his career in hospitality as an intern at a hotel. He joined Hilton in late 2009 and has worked his way up in 3 short years to become the food and beverage manager at our award-winning Hilton Orlando. His energy and passion have had amazing results and have sent our TripAdvisor ratings through the roof at that hotel. You're going to get a chance to see his passion and energy in just about an hour later this afternoon. Of course, we are a business that is driven by successful hires and the development of our frontline team members who interact with our guests day to day. So employing youth with talent is not only first and foremost a key to the long-term success of our company, it's also a first step to expanding their horizons. And because of our strong global growth, we're looking forward to continuing in our roles as leaders in job creation for youth and communities all over the world. I've discussed the key role that travel and tourism plays in job creation and GDP globally, but Hilton plays a big part of that story as well. As Doug mentioned, the reach of Hilton is pretty remarkable. We have a presence in 91 countries and a footprint larger than the Peace Corps. We have more than 300,000 team members working in these countries, more than General Electric or Pepsi in these same parts of the world. Of particular note, over the last 5 years, we've created close to 70,000 net new jobs at a time when the global economy has faced significant challenges. This year alone, we're poised to create 17,000 jobs worldwide, and over the next 5 years, 100,000 jobs worldwide. A significant number of these jobs will be in Asia and the Middle East, places where demographic challenges make job creation even more important. These new jobs will have an impact on the lives of each new worker, as well as their families who may depend on them for support. Hilton provides much needed earning power and security, economic security to them, but we do a whole lot more. One of the things that I am most proud of at Hilton is our well-deserved reputation in the area of training and development. Our team members receive education in work and life skills which equip them to deliver great guest experiences as well as reach their full potential in their lives beyond Hilton. In many ways, we resemble a large university in that we provide classes to all levels of our employees, from the most junior line-level team members to our hotel general managers, up to and including our senior leadership group. In the last 2 years alone, students at Hilton Worldwide University, which is our internal training program, have completed more than 1.6 million courses, both online and in the classroom. You compare that locally to the University of Maryland as an example, where they have 26,000 students taking about 100,000 courses every year. And you can see the impressive size of the effort that we're making. It's important to note, though, that we don't fly solo in our work to train and educate. Through alliances and partnerships, we're helping to train the next generation of leaders in our industry through our support of degree programs. We leverage excellent hospitality programs at a number of institutions by funding scholarships at universities like Taylor University School of Hospitality in Malaysia, the Conrad Hilton School, of course, at the University of Houston, and the Guodong Shunde Polytechnic in China. We also offer scholarships through programs such as the Asian and Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund and the Hispanic Scholarship Fund in the United States. Our efforts start even before we begin to hire a young person. We're engaged globally to expand youth opportunity by harnessing the resources of our organization from top to bottom. It's at the core of our corporate responsibility commitment, Travel with Purpose. Our company's efforts to create opportunities for young people by providing them with first-hand access to education and training. Apprenticeships are a great example of one approach that we're using. In Egypt, for example, a Hilton resort puts youth through a 3-month training regimen to enhance their work skills, which results in certification and hands-on experience in each department of the hotel. In China and Brazil, Hilton hotels manage a year-round apprenticeship program for young people designed to provide critical experience needed to get through the door and win their first jobs. And right here in Washington, D.C., down the street, the Washington Hilton hosts hospitality workshop camps for city youth and partners with a local hospitality high school that offers internship. So here's the bottom line. This is obviously good for business and good for corporate citizenship. When our business thrives, so does the community. The programs that we work with are designed to improve the success of our company, but also build the sustainability of the communities in which we operate. We simply believe it is impossible to have one without the other. We are truly excited about the work that we're doing that I described, and proud of the fact that 8 out of 10 Hilton properties currently participate in programs that support young people in their communities. And we look forward to expanding this work through a new initiative to be launched this summer, which is designed to broaden our work in helping young people achieve stability and discover hope by contributing our resources and expertise across the globe. By leveraging the resources of our global brand and engaging our team members, we believe we can make a real difference. This program will provide each of our properties the information, resources, and toolkits for them to support youth in their community in 3 key areas: education, volunteering, and partnering. Education means providing mentoring, training, job opportunities. Volunteering is about having team members get very directly involved with local youth-serving organizations. And partnering is about leveraging hotels' expertise in areas like food and beverage or operations to help local organizations in their own operations. As part of this new initiative, we'll work with IYF, I'm happy to say, to develop these programs and deepen relationships with local youth organizations that are playing such an important role in engaging young people in need. We want to ensure deep and measurable impact in the programs we develop to help young people reach their full potential. Bill Reese, who you heard from just a few minutes ago, IYF's president and CEO, put the challenge to me very directly. He told me, let's face it, time is running out if we want to turn the global youth bulge into an economic and social asset. A youth bonus could pay out dividends for decades to come in terms of productive lives. But to get there, we need concerted, organized action. We at Hilton have heard the call. Earlier this month, we announced our new partnership with IYF, including, as you just heard, my participation on the board of directors and a $3 million commitment to our youth development work. My role will be to help us leverage our properties and team members on behalf of this challenge. And I will work to build corporate support for this effort within the global travel and tourism sector through other industry leaders and with our other industry corporate partners. I hope they too will rise to this challenge, for the same untapped potential of young people around the world can raise all boats and enrich our colleagues and competitors in the industry in the same way it has deeply benefited Hilton worldwide. Working together in partnership with everyone here in this room, I believe we can make a difference and tip the balance toward real and sustainable progress for today's youth, from Washington, D.C. to Wuhan, China. The truth is, the stakes are high, but the payoff really is higher, not only for our business, of course, but also for our collective future. So let me close as I began. You cannot watch 6 fantastic young women in my life grow up or imagine what kind of future awaits them without doing everything possible to equip them with the skills they need to have a plan for where they want to go and what they want to accomplish. And if we do that for our own children, how can we do anything less in the homes of our employees, or for that matter, in the homes of young people all across the world? In the face of these great challenges, I still believe there is a way to succeed. If we can bring the private sector together in partnership with the NGO community, we can make a difference, opening new doors and providing a line of sight to a better future. The greatest generation does not have to be in the past. It can be right in front of us. Through focus and effort, we have the power to make it so. In that, I am highly confident. So thank you very much for the invitation, Bill and Doug, for being here. Thank you all for giving me a bit of your afternoon. And that will conclude my remarks. If you want to do some Q&A, I'm happy to do that as well.
Chris,
You want
that
me to
was
sit or stand?
terrific. You know, I don't think you're mic'd.
Oh, I don't have a mic, so I'll stand.
We can give you a hand over
Okay.
mic. You can come
All
sit right here.
I'll sit.
Great. That was a terrific address for the group, and I'm sure it reminds everyone of not only why they're here, but the sense that they're not alone. Important to think that there's such major employers that are so thoughtful about workforce. But I'm reminded from your remarks about how inextricably linked the supply of the workforce is to your success in your business. I had a couple questions. I was going to start with one to give you all a couple minutes to think about your own questions, and then we're going to move to the audience, and I think we have microphones moving and roving. So think of your questions, and I'll start with one. One question I think many people might have on their mind: what are you looking for in a young person for whom this might be their first job, in terms of technical skills, soft skills, experience, personality? What do you think?
That's a great question. You know, the way I would say it is, like many organizations, we're a values-based organization. So technical skills for what we do are really important. You guys are guests in our hotels, hopefully frequently. Thank you for the business, by the way. And ultimately, all of our team members at whatever age, youth or adults, need to have the technical skills to do their jobs. But we can teach technical skills. Having some basic skills are obviously can be helpful. It's the values we're looking for. Many of the values are very hard to teach. So the values of our company are Hilton values. H represents hospitality, right? So hospitality is art more than it is science. The reality is we are looking for people, youth or otherwise, that have a predisposition to serve people. The reality is not everybody, youth or otherwise, is cut out for that. Not everybody is wired with the DNA to want to be able to serve customers, have the communication skills to be able to do that. So we are always looking for that. Integrity, right? The I in Hilton is, in our values, is for integrity. In the simplest form, we're looking for people, and I know this sounds very simplistic, but it is true, that know the difference between right and wrong. You'd be surprised. I mean, that is one of the challenges around the world is, because of the lack of education or lack of familial influence for some of the youth, they do not have those basic skills. leadership. L of Hilton is for leadership. That that they have in some ways, even in small ways, been leaders in their village, town, community in some way. Teamwork. T is for teamwork. What we do is very complex, and the interdependencies are massive. So we really are looking for people that know how to work with other people. And O is for ownership. People that own their problems. I mean, some people, we've been dealt better or worse hands, but whatever we do, that we're responsible for our own actions. And so kind of accountability. And then last, in our values would be, N, or, now, sense of urgency that, somebody, the customers, you guys are very demanding, right? There's no waiting around. When people want solutions, they want it now. There's no tomorrow, there's no tonight, it's right now. So in what we do, you really do have to have a sense of urgency. So we're looking for youth that have those that share the values. The success of our company, this is all I do, and I know you do in your organization, is think about our culture and building the culture of our organization, and that culture is built around those values, and values in the end are merely the accumulation of the values of the people that are in the organization. You can't have a value statement and say, the Hilton values, hospitality, all these things that I talked about, and then have people that don't fit into it. It can't be kind of a poster in the back of house of a hotel and suddenly that's your values. It has to be the values of the people. So when we're looking for people, youth or otherwise, we're a values-based organization. We're looking for people that we think will be able to live those values. We can teach them the rest, by and large.
I'm going to have two very quick follow-on questions because I'm just too curious not to ask. One is, how long have those letters meant what you just described? Is that from early days?
It's interesting. We're also a
brand.
We're also a branding company, right? So that I actually, for 5 years since I got there, I would say the values that I just described, plus or minus, have existed within the company for decades. We're 93 years old. I don't know how long, but for decades and decades. But what I found when I got to the company 5 years ago, because it's funny, we're a 100-year-old company, but we've been put together, you and I have talked about this, in part through merger and acquisition. The company's culture was very dysfunctional because it really wasn't one culture, it was a bunch of different cultures. So while there was some consistency in terms of underlying values, because people had great overlap in terms of their their personal values, there was no kind of enterprise-wide view of what that really meant until I got to the company and said, it's nice to know we have values, but we need to be able to articulate those in a way that the senior management can understand, but somebody working in the hotel, a housekeeper, somebody, a busboy, somebody in the kitchen can understand. And so my idea was to come up with, who's ever going to forget Hilton, right? You all work for Hilton, so that's pretty easy to remember, and it happened to play out with the core values. I stopped counting. Jennifer knows this story. I went around the world my first 90 days, and it wasn't a bad thing. But when I got to 30, I stopped counting the value statements that I saw on the walls of our various hotels and offices, and that's when I said, I think it's time to have a little bit of consistency. There was a huge amount of overlap. We were saying many of the same things in different ways. There were some things that were not consistent with those values I just described. But to me, there's nothing more important, in terms of my job than to set the vision, which you heard about, the mission, the values, and what are the 4 or 5 key strategic priorities, and make sure that everybody everywhere around the globe knows that, and all the oars are in the water rowing towards those objectives. And that's pretty much what I spend my entire life's work doing, is getting alignment on those core things and beliefs around the company.
It's such a simple idea and very powerful when it's done right.
Well, you have hundreds of thousands of people. It's not as simple as it seems.
Right. You're lucky that you had 6 letters in your name. I'm wondering, if you'd been the president of Westinghouse, what would you have done?
I would have come up with a different way of branding it. Yeah.
But
I got
IYF,
lucky. I got lucky.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to save my other questions and see if we can let the audience ask some questions.
It's a shy group.
Oh, I don't believe that for a minute. Yes.
Thank you for your remarks. I'm Andrew Baird from RTI International. Just a kind of a quick couple of follow-up questions to those comments. I'm wondering whether you have done any kind of analysis of what are the most challenging characteristics to find. Are there ones that you find that your training and development programs need to spend more time on? And thinking of it in terms of a lot of the programs that are represented here working with youth and trying to prepare them, are there things that they can do to make them more attractive in particular areas? I guess that would be one.
Yeah, I think we have done a lot of work in that area, and I think, and I indicated in my earlier response, I think the most challenging thing that we're, to find for us is the hospitality value, meaning that people just have a predisposition to want to serve people. I don't think there's a lot we can do, or unfortunately you can do in that arena, because I think it's it's almost a DNA thing. You either have it or you don't. And so for us, that ends up being one of the biggest challenges, because if we get people in that don't have, or fake kind of having that kind of desire to serve, it doesn't take very long before it becomes obvious that they don't, and you end up having significant customer issues as a result of it. I think there are a lot of things that particularly in the developing parts of the world, that we can train for, but we're not really honestly set up well to do it. Even with our massive system through Hilton University, there are certain basic life skills that I'm not saying we cannot educate and train in, but we're not really set up to do that. We do kind of have a minimum standard requirement of people knowing how to, basically communicate with one another, basic financial skills, basically can manage their own lives and manage the basic interaction in a collective environment, okay? That's probably the simplest, highest level way I could say it. And so to the extent in working with, the broader NGO community and others, in educating youth, to the extent from our selfish point of view, making sure that those basic life skills exist is much more important than the technical vocational training. Now, the truth of the matter is, the better they have been trained in that regard, the easier our job is. But we're pretty well set up to be able to do that, both through Hilton University and, frankly, just on-the-job training. We have massive experience base in these hotels, and the way that this normally works is, as we go into new regions of the world, as you might imagine, we're not sending somebody in to be their, on their first general manager job. We're taking very seasoned people that are in many cases expats, because we kind of have to, and we're getting our businesses in these parts of the world started, and then cultivating the talent below them, ultimately to get them out and localized at the highest levels even. But we typically have to start with people with vast experience, and as a result, it's an amazing training ground from the standpoint of both vocational skills, vocational technical skills, all the way up, and including management skills. But where we need the help is the really basic stuff in the developing world. How do you look at communication, look somebody in the eye, just basic things that customers all over the world require. How do you conduct yourself, financial life? How do you interact with the other people in the hotel? I mean, figure a hotel is, in most parts of the world, a full service hotel is one team member per room. So 500 room hotel, you have 500 people you're interacting with, and the interdependencies are massive, right? So you can be technically super good at what you do and learn that, but if you can't communicate or interact and know how to interact, just basic life skills, it's very challenging for us. And it's not that we can't teach it, but most of the time, by the time they get to us, that's kind of pretty ingrained.
So I think that brings a great challenge for us in the room to think about how could we try to create some of those characteristics in younger people, because it seems like what you do is to create a path for those who have those characteristics. You probably can't do much other than screen out the ones that don't.
That's exactly right.
But there may be things that we can come up with either through maybe work experience, internship for younger students or something to get them when they are adaptable. There'll be some who would never lend themselves to this profession. I think that's a good takeaway for us to think about. How about another question for Chris? Rana?
Hi, I'm Rana Turk from Jordan, IYF Country Director, Jordan. First of all, I have a question. How many Hilton branches we're going to have in Jordan? And hopefully it's going to be soon.
Many.
My second question.
I think we have, with what we have in the pipeline and open, I think 7 hotels in Jordan is what we're planning.
Hopefully it's going to turn to be 70 soon, under the partnership with us. My other question, actually, we're working in the hospitality sector in Jordan, and tourism, it's one of these competitive sectors, and it's attracting employment for youth. But we're facing serious challenges, and I would like to hear about your strategy in the Arab world, because we have some religious concerns. We are the culture of shame, and it's a male-dominant sector or industry. So what's your strategy to overcome these challenges?
That's a great question, and I think our strategy is to be able to deliver exceptional guest experiences no matter where we are around the globe, and that is basically to take the standards of our various brands. We've talked a lot about Hilton, but we have 10 different brands, and then make sure that we adapt those appropriately to local cultures. So when you think about our activities in Jordan or throughout the Middle East, it is really important for us to make sure that that we set, that the rules that are set in terms of the guidelines for the brands, I view as guardrails, that there are rules. We have to have rules both in terms of what the product looks like and what service delivery is, but that those are pretty broad boundaries, and that we adjust as appropriate to meet the cultural norms. And that in the end, the only way that we really succeed in making you a loyal customer in Jordan or somebody a loyal customer in Saudi Arabia or in India and China is to localize, meaning that just as I was describing before, that we're building a talent base, youth all the way through the most senior operating people in the hotels, that allows us to really adapt to the cultural needs of any particular region. Now, we're not perfect, we've done a pretty good job of it. We've been out, working internationally longer than anybody in the hotel space. I think we opened our first hotel in Istanbul 60 years ago, so we've been doing this a long time. And we're still learning. I would say, in the Middle East, we're still learning. We've been in the Middle East, I think when we opened up in Abu Dhabi 35 or 40 years ago. We've been there a long time. But I think the key is, and the greatest challenge is, and it really, everyone in this room can have a material impact on it, is getting youth trained properly, and for us to find the right youth, get them into our system, and ultimately build a massive amount of bench strength in every region of the world, so that when I wake up in 10 years, my dream would be that we don't really ever need to have, when we think about going to new places in different regions of the world, expat activity, that we in fact are almost entirely localized. And that's very easy to do, not easy, but we do that in the mid and lower levels, but we have not been able to do that as successfully ourselves or anybody in our business at the higher levels. We're getting much, much better at it, but to succeed, we really need to do it. And that's how we will ultimately succeed at what I think what your core question is, which is how do you kind of adapt what you do, not have an American or Western standard, but a standard that really meets the needs of the customers in that particular market. You localize is how you ultimately do it.
Jim, I think we need to wrap at this point. Yes, I know there are many good questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you all. Chris, the last comment I was going to make to you when I think about talking about your daughters, I have a 21-year-old niece who just got her first real job, which is at a hotel in Baltimore. And I asked her how it's
The
going.
Hilton?
Sadly not. And her first job is working at the pool. And I said,
That's a lot better than my first job.
Well,
I'll say
I
that.
don't know, because when I asked her,
I
said,
saw the pool.
You saw the pool. When I asked
I
her,
cleaned the pool.
I said, how's it going? And she said to me, she said, some of those customers are really mean. Yeah. And I thought, that is probably her first experience in dealing with incredibly difficult people, which I think we all know that may not be what you're looking for, but that's actually what you need to learn how to deal with. So I can see how some of those skills are developing,
great.
even in my own family. Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and thanks to the audience as well.